Hey. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Devin Barrier. I am the Chief of Staff of the Physician Association of California. We're very excited to have you here for this amazing webinar presentation by the lovely Deborah Ferris. A few housekeeping details before we start. Everyone is currently muted, but if you do have any questions that pop up during the presentation, please don't hesitate to use the question box. If we don't have time to answer live questions at the end, we will be sharing Deborah's contact information so that you can contact her and ask any questions that may come up for you during the presentation. And with that, I think I'll hand this over to Deborah. Thank you so much, Deborah.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Devin. I'm Deborah Ferris. I am president of Practice and Liability Consultants. This is my 40th year, May 1st, of my business. But prior to that, I'm originally from Battle Creek, Michigan, home of Kellogg's. And now I was in San Francisco for many years, and now I moved everything to Napa. So I always kind of joke that I graduated from cereal to wine. But in any case, I was a pharmaceutical rep for two companies, and then I was a practice administrator myself. And during that time, and then when I worked for NorCal Mutual, which is a medical malpractice insurance company, I went back to get my MBA in Health Services Administration, and then started Practice and Liability Consultants in 1985. So I've worked now with over 2,300 practices of all sizes, shapes, and specialties. And I do a lot of speaking and webinars and that type of thing. And that's my favorite thing to do is educate. So I am on the board. I am on the board of Physician Association of California. I just wanted to make that clear. And I'm doing this complimentary. And when I talk about things today, I have no financial or conflicts of interest to disclose. I'm simply like to recommend resources that are helpful to my physicians and managers. So I always talk about, remember this from your Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that you'll either step forward into growth or step back into safety. We can't just continue to do things the way we've always done them. And I always kind of joke and kid that change is the worst swear word in the medical office. It just seems to be just very difficult. And I think it was Mark Twain that said the only person that likes change is a baby. But we have to get out of that, and we have to really embrace change and move forward. So I was going to show this, but when we were doing this, it was kind of had a mind of its own. But I urge you to take a look at this. Caleb Masterson, I have another one of his at the end. But it's really funny. It's a little dialogue between the manager and the doctor about him trying to upcode, which Cigna now is saying that it's going to downcode all 99214s and 5s. So take a look at it. It's really funny, and we'll go from there. So in any case, the good news is that many people, many practices have had an increase in the revenue side because of patient encounters. So you have to do both. You have to look towards increasing productivity and revenue as well as keeping costs under control. So it's really a dual mechanism. So I think this is pretty interesting, very true. Prior authorizations, staffing shortages, rising costs. These things, dealing with payers is very difficult, and we're very proud that Physician Association has introduced a bill to streamline credentialing. I was helpful on that, I think, and hopefully Governor Newsom will sign it soon. So we used to do credentialing, so I'm very, very, very adamant about streamlining that process. So authorizations, dealing with payers, staffing woes. We're still having staffing shortages with medical assistants, and just increasing costs. So, and of course, everybody with electronic medical records always paying with that, right? Okay, so I'm a firm also a believer in letting your managers join Medical Group Management Association. It's our professional organization for medical practice administrators. And again, look at this, 90% higher costs this year than last year. So, when revenue stays flat and costs go up, that means less net income for the doctor. So I really urge all my clients to look at benchmarking, and all industries do benchmarking. That means comparing your key practice indicators with your peers, and that means your specialty peers. So I'm going to show you a little bit of data on that. But, Medical Group Management Association says that better performing practices use this data, and more than 60% of managers educate physicians about this behavior and about comparing your practice with benchmark norms. So I urge you to do that. So we're going to get started now. The number one issue and the biggest cost, other than if you're a plastic surgeon or an oncologist with your cost of goods sold with chemo and Botox and so forth, is staffing. So we have to look to try to reduce your staffing costs. So merging and with other doctors or expense sharing, that reduces your full-time equivalents, that's the acronym FTEs, per MD by sharing staff. So this past year, I did a big merger of orthopedic surgeons in Southern California. We merged 2 small practices to be a 17-doctor practice. And I know they're going to be able to save money probably a couple years down the road. So also use per diem staff, especially with your medical assistants. Those are tied to the doctor's production. So, maybe reducing them to 3 days a week and having 2 of them, Monday through Wednesday and then Tuesday through Friday. There's a lot you can do with that. So if you're having trouble hiring full-time medical assistants, think about doing part-time ones and having one person be on per diem to be able to fill in for vacations and sick leave. And then I really believe in scribes. I have done cost benefit analysis for my physicians about the cost benefit of using a scribe versus, them waiting till the end of the day to do their charting, which is also a malpractice risk from my malpractice background. So a lot of my doctors use potential medical students. So university students that want to work part-time to get a good reference for medical school. They're smart, they're sharp, they're motivated, they're really great. Or you can do some outsourced things. There's a lot of things like Scribe America, Robin. There's all kinds of, my OBGYN, for example, has her scribe on her cell phone, and you sign a little piece of paper, which you should do, that allows the patient to consent to being scribed. And it's right there during the visit, and she scribes for my OBGYN. So I think that that's really the way to go to save time and money and be able to have the physician go home at night. So this is a sample from Medical Group Management Association, and this happens to be, I just chose internal medicine. And this is what I'm talking about. There's 2 key indicators with your staffing, and that's what you're spending as a percent to revenue, and that's real money brought in, not charges, but revenue. And what are your peers spending? And this has been going up, and obviously California, you should probably add 2 to 3 percentage points on top of this, because we're in a high cost area, particularly along the 101 corridor. But as you can see, the 50 percentile, most internal medicine physicians are spending about 27.74% to revenue on their staffing. And then you can go down the line to see what they spend on the various other type of people. And it doesn't always add up perfectly to the because some people don't have some of these staff members. But this is what you should be looking at. So for example, your costs were at 35 or 39%. Maybe you're either overpaying them or you have too many staff. So that's one key indicator. The next indicator is your full-time equivalents. How many, when you add up full-time equivalents, that's adding up the hours they work per week. So if you have a 20-hour week and a 40-hour week, that's not 2 full-time equivalents. That's 60 hours of time divided by 40 is 1.5 FTEs. But as you can see here, that's really climbed up, because I remember not that long ago, it was about 3.0. So about 3 to 3.67 are what people are, internal medicine is spending on staffing members. Now, again, that's why you have to have the data for your own specialty, because general surgeons or neurosurgeons are going to be less on the FTEs than primary care. So that's why you have to get specialty specific data. But this is really important to take a look at to see where you are in the benchmark. So I encourage all the managers to do this analysis every year to compare your practice to your specialty peers. And many of you that belong to organizations like the American Academy of Ophthalmology or the orthopedic surgeons or the ENTs, they all have dermatology. They have really good specialty organizations for managers. So allow your manager to join those as well, and you'll get some of this data. So I'm a real believer in virtual services now. I think we have to look for ways to cut costs. Again, no conflicts here, but there are organizations like Powered Books that are QuickBooks experts, and they're very cheap, and they'll do all your bookkeeping and your accounts payable and your reconciliation of your credit cards and your bank statement, and that's a really good thing. And then I think we have to move and look towards AI. And there's a couple of them that I have previewed, and I think they're fantastic. And that's parakeethealth.com and Frisia. So they have AI receptionists, and it's tied into your electronic medical records so they can talk to your patients, make appointments, and they can do this 24/7. So you can always get to a live person, but they can really reduce they estimate about 40% of your staffing costs. So take a look at some of this stuff. And then the other things that I really like are the employees that are based over in the Philippines and India, HelloRach, SnapScale, Medva. They have excellent, excellent medical office staff, and they're HIPAA compliant, and they're between $9.50 and $12 an hour with just like Prialto for virtual assistants. You don't have any work comp, no payroll taxes, no ADP or payroll fees. So they can really help you. So HelloRach I have more experience with, but they are really good, and they can do eligibility and take, overflow of telephones and everything. And so I urge you to just kind of, again, think outside the box a little bit and look towards some of these things to help cut your costs. And again, SnapScale, again, it's really, these things they're HIPAA compliant. It's all of that. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, would I like to have all of our staff be USA employees? Yes, but can you hire a good staff member anymore for $11 or $12 an hour and not have payroll tax and all that too? No, it's just not possible anymore. And we have a shortage. So outsourcing your billing, for example, I prefer inside billing, but you have to do a cost benefit with that. If you're spending 8 or 9% on billing, with your internal, you might want to go to an outsource where it's 6 or 7. So I generally feel that inside billing is better and you have more control, but it all depends on where you're located and if you can get good staff. So think about that. Okay, so other things, I really believe in creating good job descriptions. Hold your staff accountable for achieving these for your billing people and your billing service by the 4 accounts receivable ratio. That's really important because that's how you measure and monitor performance. And if anybody wants that, I will be happy to send it. So Devin, make a note of that. Anybody that attends this webinar, I will send you the descriptions of those complimentary. So I also firmly believe that you should create incentives and reward staff for ideas that increase revenue or save costs. So I like to set quarterly contests. Whoever has the best idea that makes or saves money gets like a $50 gift certificate. And the idea has to make or save more than $50. And then one of my pediatric practices, the person with the best idea for the year, they would charge all the vaccines on the credit card to get miles. The doctors use some, but they would always give the person with the best idea for the year a free airline ticket. And that is very motivational for your staff. And they'll be creative and they'll look for ways to save or make money for you. So that's the visual. You want to involve your staff on saving costs and getting them involved. So I'm a big fan of Peter Drucker, MBA school, and I think this is so incredibly important because the best ideas come from the bottom up, not from the top down, but from the bottom up. So encourage them to be thinking and not just sitting there, that's really what you want with your staff. So, and also very important to control costs is controlling overtime. And most of you know this, but it's very important that you understand which is non-exempt, entitled to overtime or hourly wage workers, and exempt personnel. And almost all of your staff are non-exempt by classification of their job duties. You can't just make people a salaried person. It's their job duties. Any questions about that, you can also always contact your local labor board. But overtime should be authorized by their supervisor, their manager, and that's stated in personnel policies and procedure. California law is that you still have to pay them if they take it, but then you can start the disciplinary process to, maybe terminate them for taking unauthorized overtime. So this is really important. And generally, the only people that are exempt are professionals like your other employee physicians, nurse practitioners, and your manager, if the manager is truly doing managerial duty over 51% of the time. So if they're doing billing 80% of the time and called the office manager, they are not truly a salaried exempt person. And your manager, who's truly salaried, should not be getting overtime. They're supposed to be compensated for doing what needs to be done. So this is just a little joke. I like a lot of cartoons and funny things. But, we don't want people that are dying on the job, I mean, that's not good. You should always hire for attitude and train for aptitude. Those are my watchwords. And just keep searching till you get the right person. And especially from your front desk and people who are answering the phone, you want the best hospitable, hospitality-oriented, smiling, friendly people. That's the first impression of your practice, and the first impression is oftentimes lasting. So that's critically important. So we also want to evaluate your benefits yearly. Maybe have them participate in cost sharing, high deductible plans with health savings account, or you can have a set amount per employee. And if you're really frustrated by not being able to offer good benefits, think about the professional employment organizations. It's employee leasing. Now, you do have joint liability with that, but it can, if you're having trouble attracting good people, they oftentimes can give better benefits because they have a huge pool of employees. So, again, MGMA stayed the same about what you're offering for benefits since 2023. So people aren't really improving them that much. And I like this is that that's pretty typical. Raises predicted this year and probably next are going to be about between 1% and 3%. And they should always be merit performance raises based on their job, not just cost of living. That's not motivational at all. So number 3 is office space, because other than staff, rent is your next highest expense. So you want to look about extending hours by having more doctors or providers in that space. That reduces the rent cost per provider. So that's really important. Maybe think about moving billing and accounts payable to less costly space. They don't have to be right in your expensive medical office space. Those are things just like a billing service. So I have the practices that have moved that off-site into $2 or $3 less square foot per square feet. So I still have people that are still holding on to all their charts, and maybe you need to move those to off-site storage, scan them, and repurpose that space as a money-making space like another exam room. And always make sure you're negotiating your leases carefully and making sure that you try to renegotiate those. And because you are desirable, that's what I want to encourage you to understand is that I think during the dot-com booms and all that, when they kind of kicked out all the physicians and dentists and then those went bust, they realized that physicians and dentists are very stable tenants. So use that. And during the COVID period, I had many physicians renegotiate their leases because the landlords did not want to lose them during COVID. So that was they took advantage of a bad situation to get a good lease. So again, I chose ortho this time, but that's what you should find out. What are the average percent to revenue that your specialty peers are spending on rent? And so that's gone up a little bit for ortho, but most of the surgical specialties, it's between 6 and 7%, and then maybe up to 8 or 9 for primary care. But once again, California, we have expensive real estate, so you might be a little bit higher. And then you should also know what your total operating expense ratio is to revenue. So that has been the saddest part, is that a lot of specialties were under 50% for many, many years, and now many specialties are over 50%. So over 50% of your dollars going to operating costs, which is hence the reason for this seminar, to look at making little bites of cuts on every type of line item expense so that you can make sure you're having your net income that you want. So along those lines, I would like to say that encourage the managers to do an anticipatory budget every year. Fall is the perfect time to do this. Once you learn about some of the reimbursement costs, then you can plug that into an anticipated revenue, and then looking at what are we going to do month by month by putting it on Excel. And I think all managers should fully know how to use Excel, and looking to see, is our rent going to go up in next year in June? Are we going to have to give some staff raises? You got to build that into your budget, by the Excel spreadsheet to say, wow, if we don't do something, poor doctors are going to suffer from their net income. So please do that, managers, and train your staff how to use Excel. There's all kinds of one-day courses on using Excel and QuickBooks. So do that. I'm a big believer in the advanced practice clinicians or advanced practice providers. They call them both of those things. But I like this analogy. Physicians performing all the work is similar to automotive engineers changing spark plugs. So this frees you up as a physician to do the more difficult things, expand the practice, and increase net income. So you do need to motivate them, just like an employee doctor and a nurse practitioner and PA. You need to create incentives and know that they're making a profit. You are making a profit on them. You should be making at least a 5% profit, 5 to 10% on your nurse practitioners and PAs, and at least a 5% profit on your employee MDs. So you need to know what your break-even cost is by their direct costs, your contribution to overhead, and then know what their break-even is in collections. And then anything over that collections break-even, the first part of that goes to your operating overhead ratio. So if you had a 50% overhead ratio, then you have 50% to divide up. So maybe with your nurse practitioners and PAs, you want to keep 30% for your profit margin, but give them a 20% bonus, and that will motivate them to bring in revenue. So other things you want to take a look at are your injectables, your medical and office supplies. You want to have just-in-time inventory. That's a basic business principle. You shouldn't have 12 months of inventory sitting on the shelf, because that's tying up cash that you can use to pay your bills. So use good inventory control systems. It can be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, or many of the software programs actually have that built into it. And teach your managers to play vendors off of each other to negotiate for better prices. Hey, Henry Schein is giving me it for this. McKesson, can you match that? They oftentimes will, because they want to keep your business. So don't overstock. They may expire. You need to make sure that your medical assistants are looking at all the injectables and medical supplies and office samples to make sure that they're not expiring, and maybe your manager takes care of the other supplies. So, again, 41% reported that drug supplies expense rose the most in the past year. So that's why we need to really look at that and control them. Okay, so I oftentimes believe in really looking at bundling services. And, if you belong to MGMA, then some of the banks have merchant services for your credit card fees and things like that. So I think your managers should always take a look at what your credit card percentage, it should be less than 3%, that's for sure. And renegotiate or look for other sources for your credit card fees. So other things, you want to pay your bills on time, maybe get 2% net discount for doing that. And then other things, I want you to really look at your malpractice carrier, negotiate group rates when you merge together, because oftentimes that can be done. Brokers can negotiate that for you, and you don't pay the broker, the malpractice company does, so it's free to you. And absolutely, I'm a former risk manager. Take advantage of any discounts offered by your malpractice carrier for doing risk management surveys, attending seminars, or having on-site audits to improve your risk management. And then I also am a big supporter of all the local and state medical associations, and they oftentimes have insurance services and purchasing groups available for you as well. So look to join purchasing groups, absolutely. So another thing I'm concerned about, 68% of doctors' malpractice premiums have increased since in the last 3 years. California has been pretty good, but I expect that some may increase the premiums in 2026 due to the changes in our MICRA. So be aware of that and look to using some of those discounted services. Like I said, especially attend those risk management. They're always good and they have so many services for you. So another thing is legal and accounting. QuickBooks, train your managers how to use those. Prepare your profit loss reports internally to save on CPA fees. Absolutely. I want you to maximize your tax deductions within the law, but the CPA motto is pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. So don't try to push it. One of the doctors here in Napa, it's all, everybody knows about it. It was public knowledge. Ended up in trouble with the IRS for too many deductions, and then his staff ratted him out to Medicare. So he ended up in jail for a year. So I'm always very concerned about that. I want you to eliminate clutter and go green as much as possible. Cross-cut, shred into pulverization. That all, anything that has to do with patient, it's all HIPAA compliant and so forth. And make sure that you have either those shredders that in your office that pulverize it, or you use a shredding service. And organize your files neatly. Save time, staff looking for things, and switch to LED lights and unplug because that does take energy. So this is what I'm talking about. I want files in neat order, things in binders, things so that you can find things quickly and staff isn't looking around. Oh my goodness, I've been doing this for a long time. People looking for charts was the biggest labor cost of the world. So glad we're on electronic medical records. So also your exam rooms need to be very well organized so your doctors and your nurse practitioners and PAs know where everything is and it's in the same place. So this got an award for well-designed medical office practice. Everything's up on the shelf and everything's well organized and every exam room is the same. So other things that I want to talk about again is that I laugh about this storage. So many of my clients still have storage units, and you have to think about selling and get rid of that stuff rather than paying the $100 to $300 a month on your storage room. So repurpose that medical records room into an exam room, a spa, scan and shred the records, and get rid of all that stuff. Donate it to nonprofits, old exam tables and things like that. Wipe the disks of your old computers and stuff and send it off to recycling. But when you're talking about records, always contact your malpractice carrier for how long you're retaining your records. Everybody thinks it's 7 years, and most malpractice carriers, it's 10 years or more. So absolutely contact your malpractice carrier. Then other things I want you to implement, find good financial policies and renegotiate your contracts on a yearly or every 2 or 3 years basis. So collect all your co-payments and deductibles before seeing the patients. Charge people for completing forms like, sports forms and all that stuff, and charge for missed appointments. That you really need to do this. Dentists are brutal about this. So I always tell my physicians, if dentists do it and get away with it, you should too. So it's costly for you to have missed appointments. So make sure that they know that other than if, there's a legitimate reason for missing an appointment, but just flaking out is not good for you. So add patient payment options to your websites. That's important. And renegotiate your contracts every 2 to 3 years. I have doctors that have never renegotiated their contracts for 10 or 15 years, and they're getting basically Medicare rates or less than Medicare rates, which is terrible. So I like this. You can have this on your website, something similar. You should have some information to your patients to save time and money for your staff and your billers, explaining about all of your fees and your cancellation. And absolutely, patients don't know what a deductible is, their co-payments, their co-insurance, they're out of network. You have to educate them, and that saves time. Your staff can direct them to your brochure or your website and saves time and money. And saves angry patients as well. So office equipment, another thing I want you to think about buying used and reconditioned equipment and furniture. eBay is now the largest reseller of medical equipment, which is amazing. .med.com is very good. There's all kinds of laser companies. And eBay actually guarantees it. So that's a really good thing. And used furniture stores, tech companies and everything, and lawyers and, CPAs, they go out of business. They have really nice furniture. When my office was South of Market in San Francisco, people would put air-on chairs out on the sidewalk with the "Take Me" sign because they got new furniture. And people would be wheeling these chairs down the street to their office. It was unbelievable. So that's something to look at. It's about 50% of the cost for reconditioned than new. Evaluate your copier, fax, scanner needs. Used equipment on eBay and Amazon. For Fujitsu's, they're literally half the price. Scanners, those are really a lot cheaper, reconditioned. Okay, and telephone management. Use automated system for text reminders and callbacks. Claire is very good with that, but there's your own EMR might have that. Utilize that. It's costly for your staff to do that. Put website and maps for directions so your staff doesn't have to explain all that and where the parking is. And absolutely negotiate reduce cell phone and long distance charges. Every year, your manager should call up your phone companies and see if they're going to, reduce your things, and review your telephone bills and put controls on long distance. I'm going to tell you just a really funny story that I always tell in my seminars is that one of my doctors, I talked about this and he said, "Deborah, I have a story to tell." My CPA said, "What happened to your telephone bill this last year?" And he said, "I don't know. I just pay it." And he went back and looked at it, and there were all these 900 calls on his phone. And it turned out that the janitor was making porno calls on his phone at night. And his partner next to him, this is a live seminar, goes, "Oh yeah, I bet you told your wife it was the janitor." And the doctor goes, "Oh, it really was the janitor." We all started laughing. He said, "But Deborah, I did learn that I should look at my bills." And I said, "Yes, indeed." And good boy. So there's a lot of different phone services out there that can help you. So make sure you're doing that. Online scheduling, patient portals. The younger the staff member, the more they like to schedule on, with their phone and everything else. And having things like Ruby receptionists and hiring, sometimes a staff people at home can carry the phone and schedule. So I have people that have a monitor that's at the check-in. The staff member is actually at home, but it's her visually checking people in, but she's not at the office. So other software to reduce no-shows, LumaHealth, Phreesia, fills cancellations with a waiting list. I can't tell you how many times I go into offices and I say, "Where's your cancellation list?" "Yes, we have it." "Are you using it?" "Well, I forget sometimes." So this automatically does it. And some software has all of this available to you as well. So save time, make money. That's also about the doctor coming in late, running the staff into overtime. You stay on time, you can see another 2 to 3 patients per day. And that's really important. So I am going to show you this. He's pretty funny. Caleb Masterson. That's the other guy, other one too.
Oh, yes, John, of course. No, we're good. What are you doing? What are you doing? Put the phone down. Phone down. We're good, yes. Yeah, just come on, stop by. No, I'd love to talk. No. Yeah. I'm gonna take an hour and a half. No, I'd love to talk. How you doing? Time to talk. Where are you going? Where are you going? No. No.
Okay. All right. So whoops, gotta stop it. Okay. So that was just a little funny thing for you. Patient waiting times. There's a direct correlation about waiting times and rating stars. So the longer you keep patients waiting, the less you're going to get a star and good ratings on the Yelp and health grades and vitals and all that stuff. So patient tolerance time for waiting has lessened and lessened. When I first started, patients would wait 30 to 60 minutes, no problem. The average, the maximum time that patients expect to wait from their appointed time when the doctor walks in is between 12 and 15 minutes. So just be aware of that. And I've had lots of friends say they have gotten up off the table, got dressed, and left when the doctor made them wait like 45 minutes or longer. So there's just a lot less tolerance for that now. So I wanted to leave about 10 minutes. I know I go fast. I kind of joke, I'm half Italian, so I have a tendency to talk fast and with my hands. So if you need to have anything explained again, I'm happy to do that. But I'm also available to right now, if Devin, if you want to see if there's anything in the chat, or if anybody wants to come on live, I'm fine with that too. So Devin, do you have anything in the
I
chat?
don't have any questions yet.
Okay, well, I'll wait for a couple seconds.
Okay.
And I just really appreciate all of you taking the time to do this. Hopefully you will share all of this with your practice managers as well, because I think that's very important that they are also educated on this, as well as the physician. And there's a lot that can be done. And, you know, I think that might be a good one next time to maybe share your own. Well, when I do this live, we all share in person good ideas that we've done to save costs and increase revenue and reduce costs. So, you know, that's easier to do in a live seminar than on a webinar. And maybe there's nothing, so that's okay too.
Yeah,
But
we don't have any right now. Yeah, nothing popping up.
well, sometimes people are shy and they don't want to come on the video and they don't want to type in. Sometimes they're eating lunch during this too, which is just fine. So I get it too. So that's okay. We don't have to have questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Deborah. This was wonderful.
Well, you're welcome, and I hope that you do both things, increase your revenue, decrease costs so that you can maintain the net income that you want, and you can stay in private practice and be successful. So I think we'll conclude, Devin.
That sounds great. Thanks, Deborah. Thanks everyone
Okay,
for
thank
joining.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.